Namaste, students, and a very warm welcome. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. To kick things off, I want you to imagine two people carrying the exact same heavy bag. One only tells you it weighs 10 kilograms, but the other tells you it weighs 10 kilograms toward the north. Which description gives you more information? That, my friends, is exactly the difference between scalars and vectors. Let's dive right into today's explainer and figure out how this all works. Let's start with a really practical situation. If I tell you a bus is moving at 50 kilometers per hour, do you know exactly where it's going to end up after 1 hour? Well, you know it's covered 50 kilometers, sure. But could it be in the next city? Or did the driver just go in a massive circle? You see, with only the speed, you simply do not have enough information to find that bus. But what if I change the statement just a tiny bit? What if I say it's moving 50 kilometers per hour specifically towards the east? Boom! Suddenly, the entire picture is crystal clear, isn't it? By simply adding a direction, we completely change our understanding of the situation. And this perfectly illustrates exactly why we need to categorize our measurements in physics. So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll quickly cover understanding physical quantities, sorting ordinary from directional, representing vectors graphically, the steps to draw a vector, and we'll wrap it all up with a step-by-step example. All right, section 1, understanding physical quantities and their two main categories. In the world of physics, we measure a whole lot of things, right? Speed, weight, temperature. But to keep things organized, we divide all these physical quantities into two very distinct buckets. On one side, we have scalar quantities. These are completely described by magnitude only, so just a numerical value and a unit. And because they're so straightforward, you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide them using ordinary everyday math. But on the other side, we have vector quantities. Now these require both magnitude and direction to make any sense. Because of that added direction, you can't just add them up normally. They require graphical or geometrical methods. It's like a whole different set of rules. Moving right along to section 2, sorting the ordinary quantities from the directional ones. Think of this as the complete landscape of physical quantities. Notice how the scalar quantities are grounded in ordinary math, while the vector quantities bring in the graphical math and, crucially, the arrows. Let's break down some everyday examples to really see how they differ. Looking at our scalar examples, we have things like distance, temperature, energy, volume, power, and speed. Just think about it for a second. If someone asks your body temperature, you just say 37 degrees Celsius. You definitely don't say 37 degrees Celsius towards the west. That just sounds silly, right? And that's because scalars, like temperature, volume, and energy, do not require a direction to be completely understood. The magnitude alone does the whole job. Now, contrast that with our vector examples: force, velocity, acceleration, and displacement. If you want to push a heavy box, meaning applying a force, you absolutely must know which way to push it. Pushing it towards the open door is very different from pushing it against a solid brick wall. Things like force and velocity demand that you specify which way they are acting. This is exactly why vectors are absolutely critical in the real world. Think about GPS navigation, guiding airplanes, space missions, or even weather forecasting. You have to know the direction of the wind, not just how fast it's blowing. This brings us to section 3, representing vectors graphically. So, the absolutely crucial point here is this. A vector has both magnitude and direction. And graphically, the absolute perfect visual tool to capture both of these pieces of information at the exact same time is a simple arrow. The length of the line itself shows us how much, and the way the arrow points shows us which way. It is brilliantly simple. But, an arrow just floating in blank space doesn't help us much. We need a frame of reference. So we typically use either the geographical system, north, south, east, west, or the Cartesian coordinate system with an x and y axis to anchor our vector arrows. Both are excellent tools to ensure we know exactly where that arrow is pointing in space. Section 4, let's get into the actual steps to draw a vector. Grab your rulers and protractors because you'll want to pay close attention to these 4 steps. Step 1, draw your coordinate system like an xy axis or a compass. Step 2, select a suitable scale. This is absolutely vital. It bridges the real-world math and your drawing. For example, setting 1 centimeter equal to 10 units. Step 3, draw a line in the specified direction and cut it exactly to that scale length. And finally, step 4, put an arrowhead pointing firmly in the vector's direction. Easy enough, right? Section 5, a step-by-step example. Let's put this into practice together. Okay, here is our problem. A bus is moving with 50 kilometers per hour velocity towards the east. Notice how this connects right back to the very first question we asked at the start of our explainer? We have our magnitude, 50 kilometers per hour, and our direction, east. Let's draw it. Step 1, we need our reference. We map out our compass, north, south, east, west. We identify the eastward direction, which is directly to the right. That is exactly where our bus is traveling. Next is step 2. Now, we obviously can't draw a 50-kilometer line on our notebook paper, can we? That would be ridiculous. So we select a scale. Let's say 10 kilometers per hour is equal to 1 centimeter on our ruler. Now for some very quick math. If 10 kilometers per hour is 1 centimeter, then our total magnitude of 50 kilometers per hour is going to give us a line that is exactly 5 centimeters long. And this brilliantly leads us to steps 3 and 4. Starting from our origin point, which we label O, we use our ruler to draw a line exactly 5 centimeters long towards the east. We label the endpoint A. Finally, we cap it with an arrowhead pointing straight east. And there you go, you have perfectly drawn a vector. But listen, be careful here. The most common mistakes students make are using the wrong scale, drawing the line the wrong length, or simply forgetting the arrowhead at the end. Without that arrowhead, you've just drawn a scalar line, not a vector. So if you remember only one golden rule from our time together today, make it this. The arrow length represents magnitude, and the arrowhead represents direction. The longer the arrow, the greater the quantity. It really is that simple. You have all done a fantastic job following along today. Before I let you go, let's do a rapid-fire mental quiz to lock this all in. 1. Is mass a scalar or a vector? 2. Why exactly is velocity considered a vector? 3. On your drawing, what does the length of your arrow represent? 4. What does the arrowhead indicate? And 5. Your homework. Try drawing a vector of 15 newtons south using a suitable scale. Keep studying hard, keep asking those great questions, and I will see you in our next explainer.